Welcome to Shape Hero Factory, a game where you build a factory using shapes as fuel to mass-produce heroes to protect your gates from wave after wave of devious little monsters who are determined to try and take away everything you know and love. You can make heroes, combine them, upgrade them, and even test them to find who is worthy of wielding the Blade of Light. I played the Shape Hero Factory demo. I opened my eyes to find some kind of weird floating shadow monster talking to me. It told me to send my heroes forth, repel the evil horde, and defeat the evil hidden deep within the grim grimoire, the maleficent portent. The shadow told me to take a canvas and build it in the selected spot, and then told me to look in the tech tree to see what kind of hero I can craft. The various shapes in these games are called motifs. I grabbed this little motif maker guy and put him right here, and that's how I get the circles out of that apple. Then I built a conveyor belt to transport them over to the canvas. Then I put another guy over here to make us triangles, and made another conveyor belt to drag the triangles over to the next canvas. Once the triangles reach there, the guy on the canvas starts drawing the warriors for us, and I use conveyor belts to move those over to the portal. Once they reach the portal, they get teleported over to the grim grimoire, the battlefield. I can click the map in the bottom right to teleport up to the battlefield so I can see it myself. Our heroes will spawn out of the gate and then walk outwards for a limited amount of time, attack enemies before they despawn. The game wants me to set up a second canvas, but there's things in the way, so it teaches me to make a bridge that goes across. I was confused at first because I thought to make an actual bridge going across, but it's more of a teleporter from one side to another. With the bridge complete, the triangles teleported from one side over to the other, so I decided to make the conveyor belt connect all the way down to the portal, and then I had to make one more guy to make some more circles to fill up the other side. Once the timer in the top middle got down to 10 seconds, a countdown began for the battle, and when it reached 0, we teleported up to the battle screen. Wave start. The wave was 40 seconds long, and my guys were spawning from the base, walking outwards, and the game taught me that I can actually help in the fights too. I have a timer of about like a second or two, but I can click and attack enemies and take them out myself as well. So I spent the first wave clicking on enemies, watching my guys attacking them. They were dealing 2 damage every hit. I'd deal 10 damage every time I click on somebody. And when the countdown was done, my crystal put out a big pulse of energy and wiped out every enemy that was left on the screen. The game then proceeds to teach me that sometimes conveyor belts might not be hooked up properly, so you have to grab a conveyor belt, then click and drag them onto each other so they will now be hooked up properly. And once they're fixed, they'll begin functioning properly again. The game points out that the triangles are filled up on the conveyor belt because they're being produced faster than they can be used, so it teaches me to use the divider. So I place the divider right here, and then I put a conveyor belt connecting it down to the canvas. That way it can split those triangles down to 2 different paths. And for my efforts, I'm rewarded with a new hero recipe, the Shield Bearer. To make the Shield Bearers, I need to combine squares with my other little default starting units. So I put my little square drawing guy down here and use a conveyor belt to connect him up to the canvas over here. Once the canvas guy has both the squares and the default units, he starts drawing shields onto them, and then I build a conveyor to connect out, and those guys start going down the line to the portal as well. By sending enough of the units through the portal, I leveled them up, so now they'll be stronger in battle. And then the next wave begins. The shield warriors spawn onto the scene, stamp their shield on the ground, and create a protective barrier that stops enemies from getting past them. Unlike the starting unit, they have infinite time. They will stay there the entire time. They don't despawn at all. So as the wave goes on, it gets harder and harder for enemies to get past their shield wall. We win the wave taking no damage, and the blast goes out taking out the remaining enemies. The game challenges me to make 10 mages in 3 minutes, 90 seconds if I really want to flex. And then it gives me the hero recipe for mages. And then explains to me that the game is a roguelike, meaning every time I do a new run, the hero recipes I have will have to be relearned again. So I get to work and put my artist on the circles, and another on the triangles, and put my canvas down in the middle, and then use conveyors to connect everything up. Then I realized I need to make mages from the units, not send the units into the portal, so I remove that conveyor belt, and put down a new canvas, and connect those starting units up to the new canvas. But it also needs triangles, so I connect a divider up to the triangles, and then another conveyor belt to connect those two together. And once they connect, it begins drawing the mages, and I send those into the portal. And once 10 mages get sent through, we complete the task in under 3 minutes, and get sent up to the battlefield for wave 3. The game shows us that in the top left is the hit points for our gate, and our mages spawn on the battlefield using their lightning attacks attacking the ground, waiting for enemies to come near them. Each lightning attack hits in an area dealing 3 damage per hit. The wave was easy, and we win another wave, and then the game sends us into the real run next. So we're back talking to Shadow Guy, tells us to start the incursion, and choose our settings. I accept the default settings, and get shown a cutscene where the Shadow Guy is showing me a book here and opening it for me, and we get sent into the book because this is kind of the lore of the game, is that you're doing fights within this book itself. I have to choose which path to go along, and I pick the first one right there, and I'm given a gift to the minions as a reward along the way. I'm given a choice between duplication tech and efficient delivery. I choose duplication tech because it gives me access to the copy machine. The game teaches me that I can pause if I want to have more time to think, because there's a timer on your building and factory phase, and it gives me the option to turn on free control mode, which basically allows you to pause the game and build at the same time. So of course I turn it on because I want time to actually think. I set down my first canvas, put an artist over on the triangles and over on the circles, and connect them up with the conveyor belts. I noticed I had a lot of circles and triangles triangles stacked up on my conveyor belts, so I put some dividers down to split them. But I noticed the one on the left had the green arrow on the wrong side, so you had to move it over one to the right, which meant I had to redesign it and have it bridge across the conveyor that was already there, like this. I put down another canvas, connected up the triangles, and bridged the circles across the other conveyor, connected them up and sent through another lane of warriors. And then we enter the first wave in the real run. My warriors march out and fight the enemies, and it was an easy first victory, and we get some battle rewards. I'm taken back to choose my next route. I see this big Spooma looking scary guy over here, decide I want to go towards the path that'll take me to them. But first I have to fight a little guy along the way, and I'm given a new recipe as a reward for going along that path, and I can choose between a shield bearer, a mage, or upgrading my unit so that if I put out 160 of them, they will now be able to be stronger in battle. I choose the upgraded unit option, and get rewarded with an immediate level up. And I gain one research vial as a reward. And I get to choose an upgrade for my level up. I can improve my circle output, my square output, my triangle output by even more because it has the fancy gold border around it. I can improve my mana regeneration speed. Mana is what we use to put things down in the build mode. Or gain 2 more research points. Not knowing what the research points do, I choose those. And get taken to this research tech tree over here. I see I have a tech tree for the obtain copy machine. So I spend all my research points and max that out. Which gives me 4 copy machines I can use. So I get to work adjusting my conveyor belts to make room for the copy machines, connect up their conveyor belts, and then watch as my warriors go into the copy machines and then get duplicated. But I noticed that a line of warriors were getting backed up behind, which means my copy machines were not copying fast enough, so I go ahead and rework it a little bit. I use dividers to split them into 2 copy machines each, and then I connect all 4 of those copy machines and their outputs into the portal. So my 2 canvases will send their units out into the dividers, which then send them out into the 4 copy machines, which then send them out through the 8 paths into the portal, effectively quadrupling the number of units that I'm making. Once I send through 160 of the units, they start glowing because now they're level 2. And then we enter the next battle. This first level up that they have gives them more hit points so they can take more hits before they die. We win the wave, get our rewards, and go back to choosing our incursion route. Time to fight this Spooma guy, whatever that means. We get to choose a new hero recipe. I can't make the pikeman because I have insufficient equipment. You first have to have pikes to equip them with, so I go for the shield bearer instead. We gain another level. I grab triangles this time because it was shiny, and I get to work on making my shield bearers. I decided to run some conveyor belts across here so I can have 2 canvases making shield bearers for me. And once that's finished, I sit back and wait for the timer to run down. I realize I have a research point left to spend, so I go ahead and improve the divider and joiner speed so that maybe they can send those guys through a little bit faster. The next wave begins, and now we have shield bearers again. The Spooma guy spawns in from the top left over here. My guys damage them a lot, and also I click them a bit too to help increase the DPS on them. They do get fairly close to my crystal. My shield bearer blocks a spot after they spawn. They split in half here and I didn't realize it. They did a lot of damage to me, but we did win the wave. I get a relic for my reward. Useless since I have no ranged units yet. We're taken back to the incursion route and I see an even tougher enemy, serpents, and of course I want to fight it. I get a new hero recipe and I decide to pick the mage. Gain another level up. Go for research again, and buy everything I see. Improve the divider and joiner speed more. I unlock the mixer so I can make new inks, and I research unlock scissors so I can cut motifs in half. I decide to build the mages up top, and then send them all the way down. And then I sit back and watch them get made for a while. The next wave begins, the serpent guy appears on top over here, but I got distracted by this, which told me to click that button to go down here, so of course I did what it told me. And then I saw that guy, I'm like, wait a second, that guy spawned here, so I click it and go back up. And the serpent guy is almost on top of us. My guys are spamming to attack him, but doing very little damage, so I start clicking the segments of his body because the game told me that the segments of his body are weaker than the head. And my clicks on the segments of the body actually did a lot of damage. I also noticed that he wasn't actually doing that much damage to my base. A little bit of damage, but not a lot. So I keep clicking on the segments and they go down one by one. My soldiers mostly just attack the head and don't attack the segments very much. But I just kept clicking the segments one after another until there's only one left. And once I took out the last segment, the boss head just disappeared. So you don't have to take out the boss head, just the segments. The timer runs down, we win the wave, and we get more battle rewards. We get a relic that gives us more choices when picking our heroes. I choose another incursion route, and gain a fragment for my rewards. I get to choose between transfer tech to make some warping equipment, or Blade of the Chosen to create champions. So of course I choose Blade of the Chosen. Another level up. I go for mana regeneration speed this time, even though I didn't really need it. I looked at the tech tree and saw that if I take the half circle and combine it with my default guy, it'll create a new guy. So I assumed that was the champion and got to work. I put down the scissor cutting guy next to the circle making guy. So I sent those half circles and the new units out into the new canvas, but it says you do not have any recipes, so I got confused. But eventually I went to the research tree and saw that there was a new tech here and figured out that the Blade of the Chosen is an item that I need to set down and move units into. It doesn't actually make units, it takes already existing units students and tests them to see if they're worthy of the blade, and then sends them out. So the units get sent in to be tested, they try to pick up the sword, and if they fail, they go out looking all sad. I did a bit of rearranging because I wanted to make sure we had all 50 tested before the timer ran out. I wanted to see that champion right away. And right in the final countdown, a champion got made. He pops out onto the battlefield wielding his giant blade of light, slashes it on the ground and deals 300 damage per hit, and then a bunch of damage after that as well in a huge cone area of effect. The strongest unit in the game by far so far, but he's a one-time use. He doesn't stay in the battlefield very long. Then you have to wait for another 50 guys to get tested to create another one to come out and do it again. We managed to survive the wave just fine thanks to the champion of light and all of our other guys as well. We get our battle rewards, and we go back to the incursion route for the final time and see that we're going to fight Explodo as the final boss. I take a rest at the campfire to heal my gate's hit points back up. I spend a research point to reduce the chance of units being obliterated while being tested by the chosen blade. A couple seconds in, I gain another level up. I pick more research points because other things I don't really need. I spend some more research points and decide that I'm probably strong enough for this next fight, I think, so I don't bother making any more units. And we go into the boss battle. Explodo comes in from the left over there. I start clicking, I'm doing 10 damage, seeing it doesn't do a whole lot of damage to him. My guys start attacking, fighting him a little bit, his hit points go down a lot faster. And then once he gets close to his base, he sits there for a little bit and explodes, and then reappears at the bottom of the map to come up and attack again. I keep desperately clicking them as much as I can, but my clicks don't do that much damage. I really hope my warriors can reach him and do a lot of damage. And before he explodes, he teleports away, I guess because I did enough damage to make him not explode. And then my champion of light spawns in and attacks to the left, where unfortunately the boss isn't actually at, but does take care of some other enemies, which is useful. The boss comes up and explodes on us again, doing some more damage, and that cycle repeats for a little while. We're one hit away from death. The boss is coming in from the left, but we do manage to take him down in time. They're down to half health, but the wave timer runs out, which destroys the boss and all the other enemies, and then we win. And there it is. You'll love to see it. And I have plenty more videos you can watch too, like this one right here. See you next time.